Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 584, October 21st, 2018, Sunday morning. Good Sunday morning to you. Thank you so much, by the way, for all the wonderful comments in the comments section. All the nice things that you guys say. I really appreciate it. It also almost feels like that I should be like working much harder than I'm working because quite honestly, I do spend some time on research and I enjoy that. It's what I do. But for the most part, I just turn on my video camera and just, vibrate for the most part. So I do appreciate all the good comments that you got and all the nice things that you guys say. And I appreciate you tuning into the channel. Okay, let's get to some news here. So Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller did a story yesterday. I'm sure many of you saw. And he had been looking at the recent court filings, which came down on Friday. Court filings from the government on Friday, which reveal that the United States government used multiple informants to obtain information against Carter Page. First time they've come out and completely admitted that point. That they used multiple informants to obtain information against Carter Page. Also, that these informants were paid for their work. And that the FBI did rely heavily on the dossier to obtain warrants that were used to spy on Carter Page. Now, there was no big press conference. There was no major event or anything like that. These were just documents that had been FOIA'd by some individual. It wasn't Judicial Watch. It was someone else. Another attorney who's, I guess, working on this stuff. And he had filed FOIA, had gone to court, had gotten a judge's order because they were dragging their feet. And finally, because of the ruling by the judge, they had to release this stuff. So they come out with these documents because of a court ruling, and this was rolled out in a court hearing. These court filings. So the U.S. government, based on these court filings, is admitting to using multiple informants to obtain information against Carter Page, paying these informants for their work, and relying heavily on the dossier to obtain the warrants used to spy on Carter Page. Something else that came out as well, and is one of the reasons that they're using to not Rodenstein and Ray and we assume Sessions or whoever. One of the reasons that they're using not to release all these documents that Congress is requesting or declassifying these documents, one of the reasons that they've been using is that it would compromise sources and methods. And what they're specifically talking about also came out in this court filing, which is that they promised. Oops. That ain't good. Right on the lens. That's much better. They promised these informants that they would be protected, that that if they would do these things to carry out these operations that they were being paid for, that they would be protected, or their identities and their activities would not be made public. So this is very important information. We'll see how much play it gets tomorrow morning or on the Sunday morning news shows, because again, this was not a major press conference. This wasn't stuff that was delivered to the Congress. This is not stuff that went directly to the IG, although the IG would certainly have this information. We should see it in his final report, which we're expecting anytime. These were documents that came out in the court hearing because of a FOIA request, and there was no big fanfare around it. But Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller was either at that court hearing or someone that he associates with or reports for the Daily Caller was there and learned about this that way. It's amazing because a year and a half ago, when it became obvious to most of us exactly what happened, everything that we believed a year and a half ago, we're learning we were right. It's just that the evidence to prove what we knew a year and a half ago is being released just tiny, tiny, tiny bits at a time. And that's no accident. Obviously, they've been trying not to release it, but they've been forced to release it because of lawsuits by people doing these FOIAs, like this guy, like Judicial Watch, because the Congress, certain members of Congress, have been applying the pressure to get these documents released. And so this stuff's coming out, but they're still sitting on an awful lot of things. And you can bet it's the worst. It's the worst of the worst. But it will eventually all come out. But my guess is that obviously they were wanting to hold all this stuff off until the midterms because they believed that Trump would never win, so that none of this stuff would ever even be questioned. They would all be buried by the rotten reverend and her administration. Then, once Trump did win, they, of course, since then have been trying to hold this stuff back until the midterm, when they're hoping that the Democrats would take control of the House and they could shut down all these investigations. That, I don't believe, is going to happen. So they're realizing now that maybe their best tactic is just to release little tiny bits at a time so that it doesn't come out in one big, story where it would have a lot of impact. They just want to have little bitty drops of things so that you get a little bit of one of these moments, one of those about every week. And finally, after about a year or so of that, it doesn't really have much impact because you've already warmed up to the fact that this stuff happened. And by that time, people were focused on 2020 elections, or they're focused on other things in their lives, and so it won't have quite the impact. So they're trying to minimize the damage. Many of them are maneuvering. They're hoping something else will happen. So they're clinging on to a wing and a prayer. But as I have said, I believe that Trump has a plan, and here, when we get later into this video today, I'll give you some more evidence as to why I believe that. Okay, so the latest act of civil idiocy by the Commie-crats occurred yesterday with Mitch McConnell and his wife, who were in a restaurant eating dinner when some crazed commie comes into the restaurant. This was in Louisville, Kentucky. Some crazy nut comes into the restaurant and gets in McConnell and his wife's face and starts yelling at them, telling them to leave and this type of thing. Now, there were people around who were telling this guy, hey, dude, why don't you leave them alone? Just get out of here. So, it took like maybe 5 minutes, which is a long time when there's somebody screaming at you at your table, right? It took about 5 minutes. And finally, a couple guys, I think, who work at the restaurant escorted the guy out of the room, but not before he had gone over to the table and pounded his fist on the table, was screaming at Mitch. Then he grabbed this, I guess they just finished eating, or they had their doggy bag there, scraps from dinner. They had in their doggy bag ready to take home to their dog. And he grabs their doggy bag and takes it and throws it outside. Then he comes back in and starts yelling at them again. So just another unhinged, crazy commie. And, of course, I'm sure he's probably going to get arrested at some point, because obviously people were filming it. So anyway, just another example. This stuff continues to happen, just like Mad Max called for, just like the Rotten Reverend has called for, just like many Commie-crats have called for. This is what a civil society looks like to them, I guess. But people are seeing this kind of stuff, and this is only just more fuel to the fire, which is going to have a lot of people, when they go vote, regardless of what their political affiliation, whether the Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever they are, they're seeing this stuff. It's going all around the internet. It's being shown on commercial broadcasts. People are seeing this stuff, and they're thinking, man, what's that like? I mean, you're sitting there eating dinner, and just because you serve in the Trump administration, or because you're a Republican in Congress or in the Senate or whatever, this is what you're supposed to have to put up with? I don't think so. See, most decent people, and most Americans are decent people, realize that this is not what they want, and they realize it's fully being endorsed and promoted by Democrats, Commie-crats. People are going to have this in their head when they go to vote, regardless of whether they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. They're going to think about all this stuff because they keep seeing it over and over again. And it's just, it's a horrible political strategy. I mean, why would any political party want to be even associated with this kind of stuff, let alone be on record as promoting it? It's just, it's political suicide. But we're talking about suicidal commie-crats. These people are nuts. They're unhinged. Trump winning the election did something to these people. I've never seen a reaction like this before. But after the meltdown that they're going to have in 2018 in the midterms, and just imagine when they lose again in 2020. I'm serious that there's going to be a lot of people, literally millions of left-wing nutcase Democrats, probably going to have to be hospitalized, institutionalized, immunized. I don't know what it's going to take, but there's a lot of issues coming down the pike for a lot of these people because they're just completely off the track. But it's a sad thing. I mean, everybody knows I'm no huge fan of Twitch McConnell, although I do give credit where credit is due, and he did a hell of a job on the Kavanaugh hearings, and he's doing some other good things. And he even admits that he's come around on Trump. He said, hey, I didn't like Trump, but, he's made a believer out of me. The dude gets results. I'm on board. Count me in. So, you got to, when a guy is big enough to come up and stand up and say, I was wrong and I've changed my opinion, you got to credit the man. So, good for Twitch. And but he and his wife, regardless, even if I didn't like Twitch, he could be the worst Democrat politician on the planet. Could be the Rotten Reverend and Slick Willie, the rapist. I wouldn't be for Republicans going into a place where they were eating and getting in their face and ruining their dinner and screaming at them. I wouldn't support that. I wouldn't take part in that. I wouldn't endorse it for anyone. It's not civil. It's and where does that end? If you tolerate that, what else will you tolerate? Can you throw their coffee in their face? Can you assault them? What else can you do? I mean, these people just have to be arrested. I mean, they should arrest them and really put these people in jail for some time. It's getting dangerous. I mean, it really is. CNN. Chris Cuomo who's got one of the lowest rated shows on cable, by the way. Chris Cuomo was talking about the fact that Trump was joking around in that speech. I think it was in Vegas. I think it was the Vegas speech. Or no, Arizona. I think it was in Arizona, giving the speech, and he was talking about this Greg Gianforte body slamming that reporter. Now, I'm sure many of you remember that video. The fact of the matter is, this reporter came into his office, and he wasn't invited, and he was being a bit of a nuisance. Gianforte told him, hey, man, look, you're not supposed to be here. I appreciate, please leave or whatever. I mean, he was nice, tried to get the guy to leave, and the guy just kept shoving the camera in his face, kept being obnoxious, and Gianforte body slammed him, and I have no problem with that. He had fair warning, get out of my face. When someone tells you, get out of my face, you're bothering me, leave, and you really don't have a right to be there, you should probably leave. And if you don't, well, if they body slam you or smack you across the chops, I mean, you kind of asked for it, right? I mean, you just can't sit there and let people have their way with you. You have to hold your ground and say, hey, you're kind of bothering me. Please leave. And the second time is please leave, or I'm gonna kick your ass. Plain and simple. And if they don't leave, then you kick their ass. That's what you do. That's just how it works. So Chris Cuomo is talking about how Trump praises bullies. Praises bullies. While he and his friends on CNN do nothing but bully people, Republicans, and the president from daylight till dark. What do they think happened to Mitch? You think Twitch and his wife were getting bullied? How about Trump supporters when they go to rallies and they run into these commie-crats? They're getting bullied. How about people online getting bullied? Being bullied by Facebook, being bullied by Google, being bullied by YouTube, being bullied by Democrats, being bullied by commie-crats. They're the ones doing the damn bullying. That wasn't bullying. This guy, this reporter, was being obnoxious and rude. And he went in Gianforte's office and he wasn't supposed to be there. He was asked to leave and he didn't. And he got body slammed. It could have been a lot worse. But Chris Cuomo says, yeah, well, Gianforte, he can come body slam me as well. He should. He absolutely should. On air. I would pay to see that. Chris Cuomo should have invited Gianforte on his show. And then got in his face, and maybe Gianforte would body slam Chris Cuomo. right there on CNN. That would be hilarious. Yeah, and of course, as I talked about yesterday, CNN had this big show, this really, really big shoe with Beto O'Rourke. And again, this is just extraordinary that you would have a network get personally involved in a political contest like this. You know, I mean, literally an hour-long infomercial. They didn't give an hour-long infomercial to Ted Cruz, only to one side. That would be Beto O'Rourke, who the left-wing media thinks is going to be, you know, the next Barack Obama or whatever. Not even close. But on that particular show, that CNN show with Beto O'Rourke, it finished at the very bottom of the ratings in their time slot. In fact, they had less viewers than HGTV. Isn't that the gardening channel? You know, if you finish lower in the ratings than the gardening channel, that ain't good. And if you think that the guy who's going to be the next Barack Obama and is going to defeat Trump in 2020, who can't even beat Ted Cruz in the Senate race without pouring in, and he's got, what, 2-to-1, at least 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1 money pouring in from outside the state of Texas, and he still can't beat Ted Cruz. Yet you think that this is going to be the guy that's going to beat Trump in 2020? He can't even generate enough enthusiasm to beat out the home gardening channel. These are some deranged people, man. Well, it looks like the accused rapist and his demonic wife, the rotten Reverend Clinton, it looks like Slick Willie and Crooked Hillary are going to be kicking off their show. An Evening with the Clinton show will be kicking off here in about a week. And it looks like the ticket price will be $745 per ticket, per seat. You can go watch the rotten Reverend Clinton sit and lie to you and try to change history while they dodge. Of course, no real questions will ever be asked of them. The only people who will ask any questions will be plants, people planted in the audience who are essentially actors asking questions. No actual people will be actually there asking questions. And of course, by charging $745 a ticket, you can be sure that you're eliminating the average man and woman. The average blue-collar type person will not be in attendance there because they could never afford a $745 ticket. And even if they could, they would use that money to do something else besides watch the rotten Reverend and her rapist husband lie to them for a couple hours on a Sunday evening. So what this tells you is the rotten Reverend Clinton's still in the game. She has no intention of going away. Democrats are going crazy because of the timing of all this. And if you look in the front row, the front couple rows of these things that the Clintons will be doing, it's $745 a ticket. The people that you'll see in the front row are a bunch of Clinton donors, the Hollywood leftists, and the so-called liberal elites. That will be the people who will be sitting in the front rows there. There won't be any average folks there. Nobody with any common sense. No one will ever question the Clintons. That's not what this is about. This is a show. This is a show. That's all this is. They obviously are both facing a lot of issues. Hillary knows that she's certainly broken many, many laws. She's a hardcore criminal, probably facing indictments over multiple crimes. Pick a crime, any crime, as H.A. would say. Her husband, of course, is now, because of the Me Too movement, has been dissed, and no one wants him within 100 miles of them. He's like Pepe Le Pew after eating, an industrial-sized 55-gallon drum of beans. So you really don't want the Stinky Bill and the Rotten Reverend anywhere near you, unless you're really stupid like Menendez or Gillum, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So anyway, that's what you have, and the Democrats are going nuts about the timing of all this. And there was an article in New Yorker magazine a couple days ago where there was a reporter basically explaining all this. The title of the article was something like, "Hillary, just please go away." They're doing everything they can to tell Hillary and Bill, stay the hell away. So, but it won't work, because these people, look, the Rotten Reverend Clinton has been an activist her whole life. This is all she knows how to do. She doesn't know how to do anything else. It's all she's ever done in her entire adult life, has been an activist. So she doesn't know how to do anything else. People, why doesn't Hillary go do something else? She doesn't know how to do anything else. It's all she knows how to do. It's all she's ever done. Hey, Saggy Daniels. Hey, Saggy, why the long face? Now, as I just mentioned, the Right Reverend Clinton went down to Florida to campaign for Gillum. Now we've got to try to sort this out, my friends. We got to try to sort this out because now this is making no sense whatsoever. Okay, Gillum, who's running for, of course, the governor of Florida against Ron DeSantis, and now he's going to lose because he invited the Right Reverend Clinton. He was pretty close. That race is pretty close. He might have had a chance to beat DeSantis, but now that he's invited the Right Reverend Clinton, you can kiss that goodbye because he'll probably lose 5-10 points. DeSantis will probably gain 5-10 points. So this probably finishes him off. But this is very interesting. We got to work ourselves through this little issue here, my friends. So I'm going to need your help as we go through. Let's all go through this together and try to sort this out. Exactly what in the hell the Rotten Reverend is doing here. Okay, Gillum is a hardcore lefty socialist. I mean, he's like a Bernie bro. Everything Bernie stands for, the things Bernie talks about, that's what Gillum talks about. Gillum is essentially a black Bernie bro. Okay, so the Rotten Reverend Clinton runs her campaign, trying to run her husband's campaign from the 90s as a centrist, trying to appeal to neocons who were opposed to Trump and other anti-Trump Republicans, tries to position herself as the centrist. She, in the primary against Bernie, spends the entire time telling Bernie why he's too far to the left, why he's a socialist, why socialism doesn't work. She's debating him on all these socialist issues, and even his plan for, health care for all, Medicare for all, the whole 9 yards. So the Right Reverend Clinton positions herself as a centrist in the Democratic primary, opposed to Bernie Sanders and all his socialist ideology. Now she's down campaigning with essentially a black Bernie bro, a black Bernie Sanders. That's what Gillum is, policy-wise. He's pretty much in line with everything Bernie talks about. He's a socialist, admitted socialist. So now she's down there campaigning with and donating money to Gillum, whose political policies that he's promoting are the exact same policies that Bernie was promoting when she was running against Bernie in the primary, that she was telling everyone would be a disaster and would not work. And the reason why they shouldn't vote for him, and why they should vote for her, because she was the common sense, reasonable, sensitive, middle of the road, centrist, the common sense. This was the whole thing in the primary against Bernie. So what's going on in the mind of the Rotten Reverend Clinton, in the twisted, crazy, sociopathic mind of the Rotten Reverend Clinton? Is it possible that the Reverend, one of two things, I think, may be going on here. Either she's sitting back watching this rise of the extreme left wing and her party and thinking, damn, that was my mistake. That's why I lost in 2016. I should have ran as a commie-crat. Hell, I ran as my husband's campaign from the 90s as a centrist. That was my mistake. I should have ran Bernie's campaign. I should have ran as a socialist. That's where all the energy is. That's where the action is in the modern Democratic Party. So maybe I need to transition from my run in 2020 against Trump. I should be the one to represent socialism. Bernie wasn't very good at it. Gillum's pretty good, and I think I could do as good as him. So I think I'm going to run in 2020 as the socialist candidate, the Democratic Socialist against Trump. Maybe I'll win then. Maybe that's what's going through her mind. Or the Rotten Reverend Clinton does understand how devastating socialism is and how devastating the policies of Gillum would be, not just for Florida, but if it were to win or ever take a hold here in the United States, in America, and these policies would be put into play, it would destroy the country. She knows that. The Rotten Reverend Clinton's too rich to care. Remember, it doesn't matter when you're as rich as the Clintons, whether you have a socialist system or a capitalist system. You get to beat the system regardless, right? Because you're so connected. So it doesn't matter to her. But it's also very possible that Clinton realizes how damaging this would be, and especially the people get hurt the most in these types of systems is the weakest among us. The poorest are in the least position to deal with the negative effects of socialism than anyone else. And the poorer you are, the harder it is. It's devastating for the middle class. It literally destroys the middle class. Socialism does. It makes everybody poor. Your middle class disappears. You end up with the 1% total rich elitists like the Reverend, and everyone else is poor as dirt. So is it possible that the Right Reverend Clinton is so ticked off that this is essentially a revenge campaign, and what she really wants is to go out of this world having sought revenge and exacted revenge on the people who denied her her power? That would be the people of Florida who didn't allow her to carry that state. Very, very important. She needed Florida, and they didn't come through. So maybe she wants to go down there and help them get Gillum so that he can punish them with socialism. That's her revenge on Florida. And she would like to exact revenge on the whole country by dropping socialism on us, knowing good and well that she will flourish in a socialistic system, but the rest of us will catch hell. Is the Rotten Reverend Clinton going to run the 2020 Punish America tour? Punishing America for not electing her in 2016, knowing good and well she has no chance of winning. She just wants to punish America for not giving her her power, denying her the power she believed was rightfully hers. It's probably one of these two things. If any of you have any other ideas, please put it in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to take a look. We have a 74-year-old commie-crat named Ronald DeRisi of Brooklyn, New York, who was arrested for threatening to kill Susan Collins and Chuck Grassley for voting for Kavanaugh. Been arrested for threatening to kill Susan Collins and Chuck Grassley because he didn't like the way they voted. Wonderful. Then we have this nutcase Chelsea Handler, and I still have no idea what this woman does. I understand she's, a stand-up comic or something? Every time I see her, she's crying and complaining and moaning and bitching about Republicans and Trump. I've never heard her say anything or do anything funny. But she is on with Ellen the Degenerate, telling Ellen the Degenerate that she feels bad about her white privilege. That because of her skin color and her Jewish heritage, she's too privileged. And so now she's apparently got a movie out about, the injustice of her white privilege. God, somebody needs to slap that spoiled brat and put her to work in some damn factory. Maybe she's got some white privilege, but 90% of the people I know have no white privilege. They work for everything they have, and they go to work every day, like myself, most of you, and work hard every day. I don't know what white privilege is. I've never experienced that. I really have no idea what that is. I've had to work for everything I've got all my life. Never given anything. No trust fund here. How about you? Any of you guys got a trust fund? Nope, probably not. Most of you do just what I do. You go to work every day. That's it. White privilege. She's disgusting and despicable. And she also has a horse face. Now, Claire McCaskill's husband, her current husband, Claire McCaskill's current husband, is now being accused by his ex-wife of abusing her, which would include hitting her, tripping her, and peeing on her. Peeing on her. Now, I know things can get a little kinky. Some people like to go a little on the kink side. That's cool. I have no problem with, what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom is fine. I've never understood, for just me personally, I'm nothing against any of you that like to, pee on your boyfriends, girlfriends, or whatever. I mean, peeing on people. I never really saw where the eroticism comes in or where the romanticism comes in. I think if I tried to pee on my girlfriend, she'd slap the snot out of me. And if she peed on me, I'd probably throw her out the damn door. So, I don't know, maybe it's a Midwestern thing. We don't do much of that sort of thing, pee on each other here in the Midwest. Maybe it's a left coast or west coast thing, an east coast thing. I don't really know. But it makes you wonder about Claire McCaskill. Her current husband likes to pee, or certainly did like peeing on his ex-wife. I wonder if he pees on Claire. Do you think Claire's husband, Claire McCaskill's husband, pees on her? Do you think she's into a little bit of some kinky stuff like that? Do you think she pees on him? I think we need to look into this. This is something that needs to be investigated, I think. I think that Josh Hawley should appoint a special counsel to look into whether or not Claire McCaskill and her husband are peeing on each other. Because, I mean, not that they shouldn't be able to do it, but it's one of them things that, if you're voting for someone as a senator, that's a pretty important position. And, so we do need to know a little bit about the character of people who are in those positions and that type of thing. You're choosing to be a public person. This type of stuff we should probably know, because that's not just, your normal, sexual type, things that happen between a man and a woman, a boy and a girl, whatever. This is a little bit off the beaten path, and you think in Missouri, not really an East-West Coast type deal. It's, like the Midwest. You think that most people in the Show Me State would like to know if Claire McCaskill and her husband are really into, like, peeing on each other. So I think that needs to be investigated by Josh Hawley, and probably should appoint a special prosecutor. Maybe Project Veritas can get a camera into the bedroom. Actually, no, we don't want to actually see that. I take that back. Okay, but you know what I mean. We need to know more about this incident and know about whether or not Claire McCaskill, her husband who likes to pee on women, apparently his ex-wife, whether or not she's into that sort of thing, might be something that should be, information for the voters before they vote in the midterms for her as a senator, which hopefully they won't. Trump says that there's a major tax cut coming for the middle-income people in 10 days. In 10 days, he is going to announce another middle-class tax cut. Good. Fantastic. And that won't hurt you in the 2018 midterms either. I can assure you that. Well, we have Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. Actually, we're not really allowed to call her Pocahontas anymore because she's really not an Indian. And Pocahontas still has relatives alive. And although they have a good sense of humor about it, we probably should stop picking on Pocahontas. I mean, she was actually a woman of notable accomplishment in American history. She's getting kind of a negative, comparing Pocahontas, putting her in the same situation or sentence with Elizabeth Warren is probably degrading her legacy. And so it's probably not fair, with Elizabeth Warren to keep referring to her as Pocahontas. It's not fair to Pocahontas and her ancestors, who are many still alive. So we need a new name, probably. I think Trump's working on that. But until he comes up with a new name for Elizabeth Warren, I think I'm just going to call her Spreading Bull. Spreading Bull. So Elizabeth Spreading Bull Warren, her ex-husband, founded the DNA testing company that she used to prove her Indian heritage or disprove her Indian heritage. It was Elizabeth Warren, Spreading Bull, whose ex-husband founded the DNA testing company that she used to try and prove her Indian heritage. Why should that not surprise us? One final thing. So I talk all the time about the fact that I think Trump has a plan after the midterms, well, more, not so much after the midterms, but after the Mueller investigation is wrapped up. And I think that Trump is using the leverage he has on Rod Rosenstein to tell him, hey, Rod, I want the Mueller investigation shut down because I've got you by the short hairs and I've got you, I can take you out at any time. I can put you in prison, Rod. But what I'd rather do is have the Mueller investigation shut down. So why don't you take care of that for me, Rod? Because Trump knows that once the Mueller investigation is done and over with, then he can move on the perps. He was speaking in that rally in Nevada. I don't know how many of you caught it, but when he was speaking in that rally in Nevada, and he was talking about the rotten Reverend Clinton and the deep state criminals and the perps and the Spygate thing, when he was talking about that, he said, after mentioning that, he said, so, you think they're going to get away with it? He said, well, let's see. Let's wait and see what happens. So he keeps bringing up this topic, the Spygate topic, and all the stuff that was done, and he keeps saying, let's wait and see what happens. You think they're going to get away with it? Let's wait and see. So he's giving every indication, these little teasers. He's not letting it go away. If he wasn't going to do anything, he wouldn't keep bringing it up and then telling you, after he tells you and reminds you about what all that happened with Spygate, he wouldn't remind you of all that and then say, hey, you think they're going to get away with that? Let's see if they do. Believe me, he's got a plan, and as soon as Uncle Bob the executioner is gone, boom, he's going to lower the boom on them. It's coming. Keep the faith. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.